Hello students, hope you all are fine, and today I am going to post a video about the absorption process of the digested food as well as the various disorders of digestion in our digestive system. So watch the video. Student, I hope you understood the previous topic of digestion process in human being. Today's topic is the absorption process. Okay, absorption of the digested food components. Now, what are the processes by which the various component of food like glucose, fructose, amino acids, okay, nucleic acid, these are absorbed? The first is, now what is absorption? Absorption is the process by which end products of digestion pass through the intestinal mucosa into the blood or the lymph. Okay, now what is the site? The site of the absorption is small intestine. Clear? Now why is the small intestine the site for absorption? Well, because there are villi and microvilli. Okay, now these villi and microvilli, they play a major role in the absorption of nutrients. Now what are the ways by which absorption takes place? Diffusion, active transport or facilitated transport. So these are the ways by which absorption of the digested material takes place. Now, absorption of various components of food take place in various methods. First is absorption of monosaccharide and amino acids. Now, monosaccharide like, you see, glucose and fructose. Glucose, fructose, these are monosaccharide. So, fructose generally is absorbed by facilitated transport, while glucose is absorbed by simple diffusion method. So you know glucose and fructose both are carbohydrate, monosaccharide. Next come amino acids. Now some amino acids are absorbed both in the both ways, either by diffusion or by facilitated transport. Now absorption of water. Now absorption of water takes place when there is a gradient, difference in the gradient. Osmosis is the process where the water absorption in the large intestine takes place generally from the lumen of the large intestine through the epithelial cell of the blood capillary in the villi. So in the large intestine, you know, the main absorption, reabsorption of water take place. So here the water absorption in the large intestine occur by osmosis process. Now from the lumen of the large intestine through the epithelial cell and the blood capillary in the villi. Now this water transport depends upon osmotic gradient. Now the absorption of water from the small intestine is associated by the absorption of electrolytes also. Now there are various electrolytes are dissolved in the water. Now this absorption of water from the small intestine is associated with the absorption of electrolyte and as well as the digested food in order to maintain the osmotic balance with the blood. Clear? Now come absorption of fat. Now fat is also absorbed by diffusion method. Now as fatty acid and glycerol are insoluble in water, so this cannot be absorbed by the blood directly. So instead of this, these are first converted into small droplets. Now these droplets are called micelles. Okay. Now with the help of the bile salt, you know bile salt released by the liver. Now with the help of bile salt and phospholipid, that is the main phospholipid here is lecithin, they are then moved into the intestinal mucosa. These micelles moved in the intestinal mucosa. Now this formation of micelle, this take place due to the aggregation of many water molecule around the fat. Now the fat molecule is surrounded by water molecule. Okay. And this can be absorbed in the intestinal cell by diffusion. So these are referred or resynthesized into very small protein coated structure known as chylomicron. So chylomicrons are actually protein coated micelles which are reformed or resynthesized in the intestinal cell. Clear? Now these chylomicron are then transported in the lymph vessels or the lacteals. These are large lymph vessel in the villi. So the lymph vessel ultimately release the absorbed substance into the bloodstream. So these are the various absorption process of various nutrients. Topic is calorific value. Now what do you mean by calorific value? Calorific value is the amount of energy liberated during the combustion of 1 gram of substance in a bomb calorimeter. Now here the amount of energy made available during complete oxidation of 1 gram of substance inside the body is its physiological fuel value. Now what is the meaning about what I have told now? That is the amount of energy which you are getting, that is the body is making available during complete oxidation of 1 gram of substance. Now you are taking food, the food is absorbed and assimilated. So from that food, that nutrient, when 1 gram of this food substance is completely oxidized and the energy which is produced, that is available to your body cell, that is the physiological fuel value. Understood? Next come the various type of physiological fuel value of macronutrients. Macronutrients means lipid, carbohydrate, protein. These are macronutrients. Now see, lipid has a physiological value of 9 kilocalorie. 9 kilocalorie. Okay. Next come carbohydrate. Carbohydrate has the physiological fuel value of 4 kilocalorie. The physiological value I am telling. Okay. Next come protein. Protein is 4 kilocalorie. So protein and carbohydrate 4, lipid is 9 kilocalorie. Let me write properly. This is a physiological value. Okay. Physiological calorific value. And what's about the calorific value? Simple calorific value. Calorific value of the lipid, it is 9.45 kilocalorie. Remember, the unit are in kilocalorie. Next come the carbohydrate. For carbohydrate, the calorific value is 4.1. Only 1.1 is increased. Protein. For protein, it is 4.64 kilocalorie. So these are the calorific value and these are the physiological calorific value. So I hope you understood about the calorific value and the physiological calorific value. Okay. Now see, I was talking about the calorific value where I mentioned a word, bomb calorimeter. That is the amount of energy liberated during complete oxidation of 1 gram of substance in a bomb calorimeter. That means it is not oxidized in the body cell. We are measuring it in the bomb calorimeter. But here physiological value is the amount of energy produced in the body cells. Okay. So bomb calorimeter somehow look like this. It is made up of, you see, this is water here. This is the sample of the food. Okay, thermometer for measuring the temperature. The temperature is measured, heat is liberated, no? When the food is burnt. Now here the thermometer is used for measuring the temperature. This is the thermometer. Clear? This is the thermometer. This is the water. And you see this is the ignition point. Okay, ignition unit from where the... Okay, ignition unit and this is the bomb. This is the bomb. This is called the bomb calorimeter and this is the water. Here is the water. So this is the bomb calorimeter. Clear? Next is I am going to tell about the absorption of electrolytes. Now electrolyte, mainly sodium. Okay, it is absorbed into the blood by active transport. Active transport, you know, is the energy expenditure process. So by active transport, sodium is absorbed into the blood through the mucosal cell. And chloride ion, that is Cl minus, is mainly absorbed by simple diffusion or may absorb also by active transport. So these are the various type of absorption process. The next remaining topic of the chapter is disorders of digestion. So you see there are various disorders of digestion including inflammation of intestinal tract, PEM, jaundice, okay, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation and indigestion. So let me describe about each one by one. First is inflammation in the intestinal tract. Now you see this is a very common type of digestive disorder or a very common disorder in the digestive system. Now actually what happened in this condition? Now you see inflammation may be caused due to different type of viral infection, bacterial infection. Sometimes there may be parasite in our digestive tract like tapeworm, hookworm, okay, then pinworm, threadworm, so roundworm. So these are various type of causes which may cause inflammation in our digestive tract. So it is a physical disorder or illness. Next come the PEM, that is protein energy malnutrition. Now this is referred to as the potentially fatal disorder. Why? Because it lead to death in children. Okay, so in a developing country like African countries and Indian in India and Bangladesh, in various places, you can see PEM is more prevalent. Now it develops in children and adults whose consumption of protein and energy is insufficient to fulfill the body's requirement. So whatever body's requirement is there, that is not fulfilled in this case. Now first is kwashiorkor, second is marasmus. So kwashiorkor, the cause is mainly protein deficiency, and marasmus, the main cause is nutrient deficiency, the deficiency of protein, carbohydrate, all the components generally. Now it can be recovered by taking lot of carbohydrate rich food as well as protein rich food. So proper diet will recover this disorder as it is a nutrient deficiency disorder. Next comes jaundice. The jaundice is a very symptomatic disease of the liver malfunction. That means in case of jaundice, the bile pigment, that is the pigment released from liver, this bile become, the level of the bile actually accumulates in the blood. And that is why some portion of our eye, like the sclera of the eye, turns yellow. Even we can see yellow pigmentation in our skin. Now the main cause is malfunction of the liver. Next comes vomiting. Now vomiting is the forceful throwing of the harmful content of the stomach through our mouth. Now it is reverse peristalsis. You can say it is a anti-peristaltic movement, because here the food is not passing to the stomach but is coming out from the stomach to the esophagus, and here in this process, as it is an anti-peristalsis process, so lot of force is required for the expulsion of the undigested and harmful food which is coming out from the stomach. Now this is totally controlled by medulla oblongata. So it is a medullary reflex. You have studied about reflex action in class 10. You have generally studied about the reflex, knee-jerk reflex, isn't it? Now there are some reflexes which are also controlled by our cerebrum and medulla oblongata. So cerebral reflex, apart from spinal reflex, medullary reflex and cerebral reflex are also there. So medulla oblongata is the it is a part of hindbrain. So this medulla, it can regulate some reflex actions like vomiting. So what is the flow chart that I have just drawn here for your convenience? Now when there is during vomiting, what happens actually, when some harmful food enters our stomach, so there is increased salivation that lead to sweating, and that thereafter lead to rapid heartbeat, and we feel discomfort. We have a nausea. Nausea means feeling of vomit, and then we vomit. So this is the flow chart for vomiting. Clear? So you see, diarrhea, it is a frequent bowel movement of a person. That means the person always have a feeling of defecating the fecal matter. So this is a increased defecation. The frequency of defecation increase, and the defecated material is generally liquid in nature. So liquid fecal matter, generally this is caused due to irritation in the lining of the colon. Colon, it is a part of the large intestine. So in the colon there is a irritation, and during diarrhea you see the peristaltic movement also get increased. Because if the peristalsis is increased, then there will be always whatever content is there in the intestine will rapidly pass through the rectum, thereafter through the anus. So thus what happens in this condition, there is a reduced absorption of food and water, and it lead to dehydration, and sometimes even it becomes lethal if it is not unnoticed or not taken proper precautions. Okay, so next come constipation, just opposite of diarrhea. Why I am saying it opposite? Because in diarrhea see frequent bowel movement take place, and in constipation irregular defecation takes place. So this irregularity of defecation mainly causes due to lack of fiber in the diet. It may be stress or taking lot of laxative, even if a person is taking lot of milk products, may also have sometime constipation when the fiber content in the food decreases. So this can be even recovered by taking lot of roughage loaded food. So due to this, more and more amount of water is absorbed from the fecal matter, and the fecal matter become dry and hard, and it is very difficult to expel it out. So you see, during constipation, the peristaltic movement slow down, and this is just the opposite. You see, in diarrhea I told you that the peristaltic movement increases, while in constipation the peristaltic movement decreases, or it become very slow down. The last part of the chapter is the abnormality of, that is, indigestion. Now this is incomplete digestion of food. So sometimes what happens, the food is not properly digested in our digestive system, and sometimes we feel that we are full, we cannot take any more food. So this is indigestion. So the incomplete digestion of food generally takes place due to inadequate secretion of our digestive enzymes, maybe due to anxiety, due to gastrointestinal hormone secretion becomes slow down, or maybe the food is poison or food poisoning, or overeating, or maybe sometime eating a lot of spicy food. So there will be multiple reasons of indigestion. So this was the topic of the disorder of digestion. Hope you understood the topic, and go through all the 4 videos of this chapter bit by bit that I have prepared, that can help you if you think, and just watch it for the latter. So students, I hope you understood what I have tried to explain in my video about the various digestive absorption processes of the various type of digested component of food, as well as the disorders of the digestion process. Now if you want to know about the various topics of your class 11 biology, then you have to subscribe my channel, and if you think that it is beneficial for your friends, you can share it, and do like it if you find the contents are good for you. So keep watching my videos. Thank you.